Punit is the only CEO I've met who can transform stagnant Nepali workspaces into something fun, dynamic, and larger than life. The one person I can truly trust to take local products and market them at an international level.
Shirish is one of the most curious people I know. I think he's excited by the idea of design, and I think he is one of the very few people I know who sees design for what it truly is, which is a unique solution to a problem. But obviously, in more practical terms, he is the chief creative officer at Programiz, where he looks after every aspect of the customer experience for all our Programiz products.
All right. So today I just wanted to talk to Shirish about a few things. Mainly, this conversation I feel is important because the whole world seems to be split in half around the idea of whether the new generation of children and adults will need to learn coding or not, whether prompt engineering will replace coding. So there's a lot of fundamental questions that are on people's minds, and Shirish has been working tirelessly almost more than a year now on a product called Code Visualizer at Programiz Pro. So I just wanted to gather his thoughts on what the future of coding is in a AI first world, in a post-genAI world, and just figure out and pick his brain on what are the design philosophies behind the Code Visualizer. So Shirish is the product owner for that product for Programiz Pro, and he's also the chief creative officer at Programiz. Welcome, Shirish, to this conversation.
Thank you, Punit.
The vibe is really nice. And it's the perfect backdrop, I feel, to talk about technology. So let me start. What is the Code Visualizer, and why are you so? I can see that you're really passionate about it. So why do you feel so much passion for the product?
So, I've been designing for 10 years, and all of my designs are more functional, right? So it's function over form on all designs, and it gets boring after a while because I'm not creating something innovative, right? So when I started Visualizer, this idea was going around in my head for almost 3 years ago. Me and Ranjit.
For context, Ranjit is the OG founder of Programiz, and he is sort of the one who visualized the idea of visualizing code in this way.
Talking about making coding fun, right? How can we make it fun? So then we started discussing about how can we make every line of code tell a story, so how can we explain every line of code in a fun way? So that's where we started, but we didn't get right to it. So we were just still making our platform, Programiz Pro, functional, right? And now for the past year, I just wanted to work on it, and I said to Ranjit that no, I just want to work on this. No more functional designs. I want to work on something that's more fun, more innovative, right? Something innovative can come from this type of platform, and yeah, I was starting to work on it, and yeah, so I had my own design philosophy for Visualizer. That was I wanted it to look like it was a code editor, and the code editor was responding to every line of code, right? So that's where it started, and now it has grown to a much more thing. We have added DSA, and we are starting to make it look like something gamified. Mm-hmm. Yeah, something like that. And every time I work on it, it's more interesting that going back to normal things, like normal style of coding and normal style of designing. So yeah, that's it.
Got it. When you say, for example, the transition between functional to fun, by functional, I'm assuming that you mean that we were playing catch up with the bigger competitors who had been around longer?
Yes, we are just catching up. We are trying to bring feature parity with our competitors, right? We started a bit late in the game, and we started making features. We started copying features, right? And our design was looking very similar to the competitors, and that doesn't make us very unique. So, yeah, that's why we needed something of our own, right? So that's why we started the visualizer that nobody else has done. Yeah.
What do you mean by nobody else has done? Like, there are obviously places like Visual Algo and other platforms that sort of show the some visualization of sorting algorithms and code and whatnot. What's different about the code visualizer that we have built?
So in our visualizer, in the left side there is all the lines of code. In the right side there is visualizer. Of course, we saw it representing graph charts and whatnot. And we explain every line of code in a visual way, and we still add an explanation in the bottom. So users can pause and stop and see what is happening in every line of code, right? So you can see which variables are being changed, which variable is being assigned, which function is being called. That's the thing nobody else has done before. And since we were focused on providing a good value for our users, like they must learn something from our product, right? So we went further and just digged a little bit deeper, and then started adding features that no one else has, like explanation for every line, and connecting it to the real world, like let's say in the knapsack, right? In that example, we pick an object and put it in the knapsack physically. We animate it like that so that users can relate to it. So that's something I haven't seen anyone else do, right? So that kind of stuff, yeah.
Got it. So it's this zeal of doing something that nobody else has done that's pushing you.
Yeah. So something, yeah, nobody else has done it. Yeah, that's what I wanted to do, like for the past 3 years. Like I was speaking on Ranjit every time he said we want this feature. No, I just want to make a visualizer. But yeah, that's what I've been doing for the past year.
That makes sense, but obviously this is something that now there's a difference between something that you want to build and you want to see in the world, and something that the world actually needs. What part about the visualizer or the initial feedback that we've got makes you feel that this is something that the market will absorb, or or young students will see as an alternative to other ways of learning to code?
Yeah, I have talked with students, right? Many students, I have showed it to many students, and what the common theme is right. This was so helpful while I was studying, right? This was so helpful while I was giving an interview. So it's something that they require, but they didn't know that it's possible, right? So it was the first time they were saying that, and they said, yeah, can I have this in my own code editor? It would help me a lot in my studies. Can I have this in my code editor? And more of the teachers, like, they were also asking, if I had this like 2 years before, then I could teach my students so much more, right? And they were asking if they can have teacher integration for a classroom in this product. And so yeah, they didn't know that they wanted this, but as I went and showed them the product, they demanded more features from it, like can this be integrated in my platform, that kind of stuff. So yeah, I think this is going to be growing into something more.
Got it. Yeah. Especially even from my experience, if people are asking for integrations, it's usually a very good sign that you're inching towards product market fit, right? Because if people are asking for more features, sometimes it can be dangerous. But if people are usually asking for integrations, it means they actually want to use it. So that's really motivating to hear. And especially, I was thinking about this as well, like we should be working towards a VS Code plugin, because the reason I say this is AI is going to generate a lot of code, but just reading through the code can be daunting, right? Especially for beginners. So if they had some visual elements on the side explaining you what each line is doing, what each line means, I feel like it could usher in a different way of, different layer on top of the GenAI code generation tools. That's a very interesting thought. The fact that we can start with AI generated code and use the visualizer as something that explains what happens.
we have had this conversation before, right? So how can the new generation learn to code in a world of ChatGPT? Like, how will new people learn to code, right? And you said something about making it more interesting, and that's, I think, where we're moving ahead, right?
This is a huge point of discussion, and popular narrative and the LinkedIn influencer army is sort of selling the snake oil.
Yeah.
I think you should never call anything snake oil. By the way, you never know with technology. Many of the transformative technologies felt like snake oil in the initial days, but there is an element of snake oil to it. Personally, I feel, right, that software developers will become obsolete. All of the code in the world will be written by AI. So sort of this utopian, dystopian world where coding will cease to exist.
Yeah.
And Lovable's tagline is, by the way, like, we are building the last piece of software, right?
Yeah.
So even personally, I don't understand this obsession with ending software engineering as a career or software development as career. And the mental model, I was thinking about this a lot, like, because Lovable's sort of position as we are building the last piece of software on earth, it's kind of sad, isn't it? Like,
yeah, it's a bit sad.
Because what if, like, for example, you replace software with music or painting? Like, if someone told you that I'm painting the last painting on earth, or I am making the last piece of human music on earth, I think people would be outraged by the idea, and the fact that the world is celebrating that idea is kind of, I don't know, doesn't sit well with me personally. Maybe I'm not Silicon Valley enough for that.
No, it doesn't mean that people will start making art, right? So I like the one analogy very much. Like, if you know how to speak English, it doesn't mean that you don't you stop learning English, right, in your schools or colleges. And it's the same for coding. If AI writes code, it's good, right? It's a really good technology. It can write the first boilerplate code, or it can write the first few draft codes for you. But you still need to learn coding to debug, to connect all the pieces, right, together. So I think it's going to be more essential that people learn to code, like, in all stages, I would say. And I have been seeing that shift, like, people are, or maybe schools and universities are trying to shift the essentials coding or basics coding down to like grade 9 or grade 10, so that they can learn the basics as early as possible. It's becoming like English, like you learn it in your school, right? So I don't think coding is going anywhere. I don't think art is being replaced by AI, because as an artist myself, like, I do art. I'm never going to collect AI paintings, right? I still want that human does, and it's going to be there. Like, even in our visualizer, I want to put that human touch. I don't want, we haven't touched AI for our visualizer right now, because we want to have that human touch over there. We want it to feel like someone is teaching you, a human, a mentor is teaching you, right? So we didn't touch AI over there, and that's my philosophy for what's going to happen in the future, right? So
for the visualizers, every visualizer is kind of handcrafted.
Yeah, every visualizer, every piece of animation, every text you see, every explanation you see, everything is handcrafted. So we just sat with teachers, right, from California and from Nepal, and we just observe how they teach their students, right? So that's the essential thing that we have put in our visualizer. We didn't touch any AI. We wanted it to be like the traditional thing, but with some modern features, like explaining every line of code. Yeah, that's it. Yeah,
that's fascinating. But again, like, I think going back to this idea of craft versus speed, right? Obviously, again, it can kind of feel demotivating to know that we need to create every visualizer for almost every algorithm or every concept. Right now we are doing data structures and algorithms and recursion and all these concepts. Tomorrow we'll be doing SQL. Next we might do the fundamentals of machine learning, deep learning, all of that. Maybe someday we'll do chemistry. You never know, right? The fundamentals of using a visual language to teach a concept are universal, and but isn't it too painstaking? And like, does the team ever feel demotivated by the idea that there needs to be so much work to be done to cover the topics, and each visualizer sort of starts from scratch once again?
No, the team doesn't feel demotivated. I had a conversation with one of our team member, and he said that this is my portfolio, right? So this is what I'm going to showing everyone who asks what have you been doing in Programiz, and he's proud of it. Like everything that he has done is so like crafted in detail, right? So he's really proud of it. He could have used AI, and we also experiment with AI to create our drafts, right? But we still, when we craft our final visualizer, we still painstakingly go into every detail, and no one has been demotivated by that. They are the one who comes up with the ideas for what we could be doing next, right? And even if I tell them to take some shortcuts to meet the deadlines, they are not going to do that. They say, like, they come to me and say, no, this is my portfolio, this should be perfect, right? And that's what it's been, and that's how it's been going for the past 3 or 4 months.
Amazing. So how do you manage obviously the way you teach one algorithm or one concept can be very different from the way you teach another.
Yeah.
And the way you teach one concept in coding can be very different from another, right? And these differences will seep into how each visualizer is made. But you also need some level of consistency, that you feel that you are still in Programiz Pro, you're in the same product. How do you maintain that continuity while giving the space for innovation in each visualizer?
So yeah, when I design, I think about scale, right? So if I'm doing for like if-else, Python if-else, then I must think that this visualizer is going to scale to like something more, something like dynamic programming in DSA. So I set a visual language that's never going to change. It is set in the first, right? That's never going to change, and I set a guidelines for that. And every team member has a printed copy of that guidelines that they cannot break. Do whatever you want, be how creative you want, just don't break the visual guidelines, and then think about scale. And that's how I have been moving forward, right? So we have a very limited space in our TV screen or monitor or desktop monitor or laptop screens, and we start from the smallest screen and we move to the bigger screens, but we still think about space and consistency. And yeah, the teaching method can be different, but the visual consistency cannot be broken. So the base concept that we have created is always the same, and that's how we have been working. And we come up with some creative ideas to fit like the more complex stuff into our visual guidelines, right? So we experiment with different kind of styles, right? We create it in paper, we just draw it in iPad, and we like experiment a lot. Then our visual consistency comes in, then we start working again. So yeah, it takes a lot of time in the start when we switch from one type of coding programming to the next type of, yeah, it takes a lot of time in the beginning. But yeah, it all comes together, and the more complex we move on, right, more flexible and scalable our visualizer has become.
Yeah, and I think the feeling of accomplishment when you do the more complex stuff and you sort of crack something that felt kind of impossible must be great.
Yeah, it is like the self-satisfaction, right, that I did this, right? So it's really good. But the more like satisfactory stuff is when I show it to other people. It's like, and they're like, wow, like, is this, why was this not created before, right? So this was made in Nepal, right? So that kind of questions, right? So that really feels great.
Even at Programiz, I feel like we sort of, when we started Programiz Pro, and then again, as you mentioned, we were playing catch up.
Yeah.
Like we saw the likes of DataCamp and Codecademy, and then we felt behind because we were sort of doing static content, and we were not really a gamified platform, keeping track of progress. motivating the learners, sort of tracking their journey, making sure that they met their goals. So that component was really missing when we were in sort of just a static tutorials blog, and 2 years of catch up, and then now innovating. Do you think we have something to give to coders that Data Camp and Codecademy and sort of the more popular competitors or companies provide?
Yeah, like one benefit of being in Nepal is like we think about value a lot, right? Rather than how can we create profit every next quarter, right? So that philosophy does help in creating something that actually provides value. So we haven't added a lot of courses in our platform. We could have added, right? But that would be low quality. So we have been adding courses. We have been adding visualizers to the courses. Like we are just like polishing the course, what we have, right? Adding features to it to help learn new beginners to code, right? We are trying to reduce the barrier. That's our philosophy, right? Our core values and mission in the office is to that anyone can learn to code. So we are trying to reduce the barrier, right? And yeah, that's what we are focusing on. And with the addition of visualizer, that's something I can definitely say that will provide value to the users. I've done a lot of testing and talked with a lot of customers, and they really seem happy with what they are getting right now. And yeah, and that's something that they think has helped them learn code more efficiently. Yeah, and yeah, it's providing value.
I think there was a weird time in the evolution of coding education where sort of there was a divide, right? There was code.org, which was sort of this block-based Scratch, and code.org, which was this block-based coding. And then there was this weird navigation to do from there, which was like all hosted somewhere on the cloud or on a desktop app, zero setup. The output was extremely visual. You could create very simple, very nice games, and then sort of that movement really took off. The hour of code movement really took off, and then there was sort of this, and then COVID sort of accelerated this idea that everybody should learn to code and all that. Then there was this weird transition where I feel like people decided that was not enough, or that would not make you a professional software developer, and then you still had to learn Python and all that. And I see Visualizer as sort of the bridge between those two worlds, that you're still writing code, you're still working with code, and sort of you're connecting the code to visual, so that visual learners can learn better. Does any of that make sense?
Yeah, I am a visual learner, right? So when I started learning to code, it was very difficult for me. Like my peers were learning it 2 or 3 times faster, but because I am a visual learner, it was very hard for me to learn, right? And I almost gave up on it. Right? I did give up on it some years later. I did transition to design and UI UX, but still I never gave up on like learning to code. And this visualizer was something I wish I had when I started learning, right? And yeah, like you said, it's a bridge between the learning to code and like transitioning, right, to maybe a job or something. And I use the visualizers myself a lot since it's so visual. And the goal is, if I don't understand it, then no one is going to understand this thing, right? Because, like I said, it's very difficult for me to understand what's going on in code. And that's I was treating it like a bridge for someone, right? So yeah, that's how it came together.
Got it. I think when you say this, it brings me back to the whole question of should you learn to code or not. And the analogy that comes to my mind is before the Industrial Revolution, sort of that took a lot of the heavy manual labor away. I think the idea of going to a gym and
Yeah.
lifting weights, right? Paying someone to help you lift weights,
Yeah.
and then sweat
Yeah.
just for the sake of it would have sounded crazy, right? And then when manual labor went away, people still needed to do something for the physical fitness. And I was looking at the statistic that 25% of Americans have some sort of gym membership or fitness studio, or some investment into staying fit, which sort of gives us a guidance towards what the future will look like in terms of what happens when knowledge work or white collar work has the same fate of manual work, where it's not as taxing as before and our brains aren't as stimulated as before. So what I was thinking was, coding as a mental gym sort of, because again this, I kind of don't like this idea that is the LinkedIn influencer army is pushing, that looking at coding as a purely utilitarian thing. I think coding is creative. I think it's one of the most beautiful skills you can learn, and there's so much to be gained from learning how coding works. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe coding becomes a mental gym, or the equivalent of a mental gym in the future, where you learn coding because it stimulates your mind, not just to build something that will make money, but just something that stimulates your mind, keeps it creative. Yeah,
That's really interesting, that analogy of people going to gym. Yeah. Yeah, it can be like when AI does a lot of the heavy lifting for you, right? People might look towards mental exercises, and coding, video games, etc. can be those mediums, right? And that's where we are going to. Like, we are trying to make visualizer like a game, right? So that people can still do mental exercises with our visualizer too. Then that's where we are going in the future, right? And yeah, I do understand that people look to coding like it's something that's just going to go away in the world of AI. And I really don't think it about it like that. So let's say if an interview, what's the most valuable skills an interviewer will look in a person, right? So he might ask like, what can you do that ChatGPT can't do, right, in future? And that's where basics comes in, and that's where knowing what the code does come in, right? You can create a product with AI, you can do all the heavy lifting with AI, and I support that, right? That's really a good use case for AI. But you still know how to, you still should know how to connect everything. You still should know how to debug the code, right? If an error comes up, then you should know how to debug it, right? How to fix it. And I look to AI like a tool, right? So it's a tool. It's just a tool to help in your coding journey. That's it. Yeah, that's just it. And yeah, and for the rest of the people who know how to code and who want some mental exercises later on, yeah, coding might be that best. So I think after you said that, I think we should make it more fun, like more engaging for that kind of future. Yeah.
and I think this sort of is a nice segue to. So this is a nice segue to another conversation I was having with my friend. Is every company is looking for senior developers, right? Because obviously AI can do the work of a junior developer, but who will create the senior developers in the future, right? So if everybody wants a senior developer, who is going to create the junior developer, and who is going to create the steps for the junior developer to learn and make the mistakes and go through that process? Like it's really looking like a weird gap in the market where companies are not I feel like companies are not seeing through in all the AI frenzy. Companies are not seeing through the next 10 years or 15 years.
Like, yeah, AI is growing so fast that it's creating a mass confusion, I think. So what the future is going to look like. You can think of something that's going to happen tomorrow, and AI completely flips it, right? So with the pace of AI, I really think that employees are not looking what might happen, like if we are only hiring senior developers in the coming years. And we do need junior developers, right? We do need someone to fill in the gaps in coming 10 or 15 years, right? So I guess someone has to train the developers, right? So I guess we should be doing the one doing that, right?
Yeah, definitely a huge opportunity there,
Yeah.
and a huge potential loss as well. If you
Yeah.
don't, if you get too anxious and then don't do anything for the new generation that is struggling, because
Yeah.
it's kind of painful, right? The way people are being treated like disposable
Uh-huh.
resources. I really don't like the word resource in
Yeah.
anyways, like calling people resources. And then senior people, 20 years experience, 25 years experienced, are almost begging for jobs, right? I think it's also about creating a more egalitarian society where everybody has a chance, wherever they started from, right? Not everybody starts with Ivy League education and the kind of backdrop you need to start doing AI right after grad school. A lot of people need obviously the more approachable jobs and more approachable careers as well.
Yeah, in context of Nepal, that can apply as well, right? So with the few resources we have, not everybody can get a head up start, right? So I think you are correct in that sentiment.
All right. Any parting thoughts?
Since like we are in a cultural place, right? So in a place where our traditional architecture is here, I want design to evolve in that way, right? That shows some of our culture. The design we're creating is for our majority of the customers are in the US, so we are designing for Americans, right? But since we are confident that we can do more, and I want our design to show some of our culture, right? Some of Nepal, I guess, right? So that's where I guess we want to move forward in the world of AI, where there is some like background, some physical background from our side, basically a human touch, right? That can separate us, that people may enjoy, right? Something different. That's where I want my design philosophy to evolve. I want design philosophy to evolve for others to evolve in that way too, right? So basically human touch and something tangible in everything. Yeah, that's it.
No, that makes a lot of sense, and I think this is a great sort of conclusion to end this conversation. And this is the reason why I wanted to have this conversation, because we've been in this crazy AI frenzy, right? The world has been in this crazy AI frenzy. We inside Programiz have been in this crazy building frenzy where we're pushing visualizer after visualizer. We're building the playground. Where we build the challenges platform. Like we are in terms of value. I feel like we are like value for money, right? The most value for money platform to learn coding right now, but the customer doesn't see the philosophy behind all of this. And then I think it's always nice to know how the design decisions came about, what is the intent, and sometimes that can be missing, right? Especially again with all this AI anxiety, I feel like people are looking for guidance around what to do, and I think coding is again, as you said, not everything needs to be looked at from a utilitarian lens. Humans should not be looked at as disposable or problematic. I feel like I really don't like that narrative that the way
not everything has to be automated by AI.
Yeah, not everything has to be automated by AI, and there can be fun. Like there can be there's value in being slow, and there's value in being thoughtful and pragmatic, and like mindful of the impact of the technology we build. There's value in getting to know the people who are going to use the software in person. There's value in sitting like this on the ground and having conversations.
Yeah.
So yeah, wonderful conversation, and hope to do this again.
Yeah. Thank you for having me.